Hey y'all, it's us. Many of y'all had asked about these mailboxes and what they are. These are going to be going on the porch. We've got to paint them. But Hugh is going to give us a tutorial on what the mailboxes are. Okay.
All right, this is Patty's grandmother's mailbox. That's in the way. And
Let's do it.
I really believe this one is kind of a factory mailbox. And this is my grandmother's mailbox. And you had two sides here in the mailbox, one side for cornmeal and one side for flour. But up until flour and cornmeal got, I guess, everybody in southern Appalachia and probably rural America had a mailbox. But when I was little, we had our own corn ground, and Daddy had it ground. We had a neighbor with a grist mill, and Daddy would take 2 or 3 burlap sacks of corn over there, and they'd grind them, and then it was stored in here, usually 50 pound at a time. And they used to buy flour in 50-pound sacks, and they put the flour in the other side. And this was to keep the critters and stuff out. I'm sure it didn't do much for bugs, but
That's the reason they sifted it, isn't it? To get
they sifted it, yeah. If you've eaten even in store-bought flour and cornmeal, if it's long-term storage, unless you put it in the freezer, it's gonna have bugs in it. You can just count on it. It's gonna happen. The eggs are evidently in the cornmeal. I know it's gonna gross a lot of people out, but oh well.
And a little extra protein.
But when my mother was little, when they'd buy flour, my grandmother would let the girls pick out the flour sacks. The reason being was the flour sacks were printed. They were cotton fabric and they were printed. And after the cornmeal or the flour sack was dumped, they would wash it, and they made their clothes. They made their clothes out of the flour sacks. Even the guys' shirts were made out of the flour sacks. And up in the old barn up there, we used to have a bunch of flour sacks stored up. I remember seeing them a few years ago, but the rats and everything got into them. But anyhow, it was just cornmeal and flour storage was all it was.
Well, there you go. Some folks that are just not nearly as old as we are had questions. So there's the historian.
I remember my grandmother using this one. This one sat in the kitchen.
Well, they're going to be painted this lovely old-fashioned green right here. And they're going to be used on the flower porch.
These little zigzag things here were a way of joining, just a cheap way of joining 2 boards together. And they'd lay them down. These things are about that thick, and they'd hold them on that and start them with a hammer, and they'd put it on a good flat surface, and they'd drive them through. And then you had this kind of little stuff that held everything together. But if I remember right, my grandmother said her brother made this one. Uncle Robert Davis made this one.
So how old do you think it is?
I'm saying I'd say it was built in the late teens, early 20s.
So probably 100 years old. Well, even when things were made rude and crude, they lasted.
They were assembled well.
Yeah. Look at this, y'all. He's out She's found him. Thank you, honey. You can't hear me. Hugh. Thank you.
Goodbye, everybody.
He takes off the minute I release him. Bless. Ferdinand is a beautiful boy, and he is on a high perch this morning. So you can see his tail in all its glory. If the sun were shining on the little brighter, it would just sparkle. But check that out. Peacocks. One of the most beautiful birds in the world. I'm not going to make him get down. If I get too much closer, he'll jump off. All right, well, let me show you what we're up to this morning. Hugh is going to help me finish planting our garden veggies. But yes. Apparently he has a lot to say this morning. All right. So, let me show you what Chelsea and I did yesterday. We finished our other side. We needed a hardening off table for the other side. So this side catches the morning sun, and when they reach the point that they're not getting enough daylight over there, we'll flip them over here in the afternoon and they'll catch the evening sun. So anyway, we have, and this looks fairly narrow, but it's really not. It's probably at least 4.5 feet wide. So anyway, these are the veggies that are finally going to go to the field today. Not these. And this is hollyhock. So they're getting ready to go up here. I've got to get this this bed where I'm going to keep the hollyhock. I've got to, and yes, the mess is still there. It will go away. It will go away soon, hopefully. Where are you going, birds? It has places to go, people to see, things to do. But this flower bed up here has got to be cleaned out. And since I already have hollyhock growing up here, I'm going to continue to plant some of it up here. We've got trees. There's everything growing up here that should not be growing up here. But I'll get this one cleaned out. Look at those. Is that not gorgeous? So very beautiful. And hollyhock, of course, reseeds. So once I get them established up here, they'll just continue growing up here. And these down here, of course, this is a mess, but this is rhubarb down here hidden amongst the trees and weeds and whatever, the jungle. This is the jungle bed, y'all. We'll call this one the jungle bed. But I'm going to take these to a different area. They just don't belong here. And for one thing, it's too sunny. They need an area that's just partial shade, or at least in my experience, rhubarb has done better in a partial shade area. So anyway, all the veggies over there are going up there to that garden. And I don't know if any of y'all saw the video on our Phoenix Acres farm yesterday on the Facebook page, but Chelsea posted we had our first cutting yesterday morning, and this morning I cut about 10 or 12 more stems of sunflowers, but we just have those in the basement. We're getting ready to build some bouquets this afternoon, and not really enough for a market day yet, but enough to maybe take to our little local produce stand where we're going to be selling our bouquets, one of the locations. But very quickly, I'll walk y'all through and show you what's going on. The cosmos, we cut the cosmos that was ready yesterday. There's a few more stems that could be cut today. But you can see they're getting taller. So they're up above the netting, yay. And then down here, This is basil. I think that's the cinnamon basil, maybe. Isn't it a beautiful color? That is so pretty. And the basil's just basically a filler, but it's so pretty. And then over here we have, let me see, celosia. I can never remember that name, but you can see this one is the coxcomb. You can see down in there, its little head is developing. So that whole little section right there is coxcomb. And over here is our zinnias. You can see the zinnias are all developing little heads. And yeah, when they're coming up through, yay, good darlings. So they're going to get way up here above the netting. That's good. And you can see they'll start blooming in just a few days, it looks like. So hopefully by next week we'll actually be able to take bouquets to market. And over here the marigolds are getting way up above the netting. See? And they're full of blooms. Yay. And they should be ready to start cutting hopefully within the week also. So I'm thinking we should easily be able to stock our locations and to be able to to take our bouquets to market next week. And this year's kind of a learning year. I don't know that we're going to have things coming in the way we expected them to. The ageratum is looking a little weird to me, so I don't know if we've got some issues going on with that. Chelsea used the weed eater down here and it shot some things up on them. I think we need to come down here and kind of shake them off. That may be causing some of their distress. But I don't see yet a whole lot of blooms coming up. So we'll have to see what they're doing. Come on, dudes. Ageratum is actually one of my favorite flowers. It can be so very beautiful. And we did get, there's a bloom. Right there. Yeah, they're blooming. But when they start, you guys will just, I think you'll love them. If you've never seen them before, they're a little purpley looking flower. And they turn fuzzy. And they come up in a little cluster. And then when they open up, they're fuzzy looking. And then here's some more basil. We could have basil bouquets. We've got lots of basil. Not really sure why we ended up setting out so much basil. But there you go. We did. And this brighter green is lemon basil. And as it matures, it's supposed to smell like lemon. So that would be nice in a bouquet. And then down here is some more cinnamon basil. So this area right here, and including our biggest sunflowers, is our first flush. And we'll be cutting on those beds pretty significantly, pretty harshly over the next month or so. And then these babies, this is Cosmos. And they're looking nice. They're growing up nice and tall. We'll net those as soon as they get up about a foot probably. And then down here we have zinnias. The zinnias are looking nice. We're supposed to get a lot of rain this week. Again, starting this afternoon. But and then that bed, of course, is still empty. And you can see the hoof prints where the cattle got in here last week. Little booger butts. Yeah. They could have done so much more damage. And actually where they walked across, you can see where it's crunched in, where the black plastic is crunched in, but their feet didn't even poke through that, so that's pretty tough. And we're just going to use the black plastic we're not going to plant through it anymore like that over there. This bed had black plastic on it like this bed. And when we pulled it up, it was pretty much weed free. And so it did a really nice job of just weed suppression. So that's what we plan on doing with this black plastic. We have another roll of it. So from now on, when we prepare our beds, we're going to go ahead and roll the black plastic out on it and leave it on it for a week or two, and then pull it off, and hopefully it will help us stay ahead of the weeds a bit. That's the idea. And then this bed, if y'all remembered, I had planted salvia and monarda in it, but I hadn't paid attention as closely as I should have to the instructions. And it really should have been planted much, much earlier in the spring, or even overwintered. At least the monarda. The salvia I'm still not certain of. So this morning I ended up just cutting this bed out. And it will be planted in sunflowers, the next succession of sunflowers. Then over here we have another row of sunflowers, and there again you can see where the cattle walked through them. But didn't do nearly as much damage as they could have. And down there, we're waiting on, let me see, my mind went blank. The buckwheat to flower, and then Hugh will turn it in. So in the meantime, we'll be planting out our glass corn and our pumpkins and everything down there in that lower end where he went ahead and plowed for me a couple of days ago. But yeah, these sunflowers are doing right nicely. Yay. Good darlings. All right. And then down here, guys, these are the little suns that we sowed directly in the garden. And the crows, yes, they got a few of them, but they didn't get enough of them to make this bed useless. So that's good. They left us most of them. But what we've decided is we're going to go ahead and hoop. When we plant directly in the garden with the sunflowers, we're going to go ahead and hoop and put bird netting in, but we're going to put it in so tightly that birds really won't get tangled in it at all. We're going to just make sure it's really snug everywhere. And that way the sun will we won't have to even move it until the plants are even much bigger than this. And that will totally protect our little suns from the crows. And here, let me see, I think that's more celosia. And over there's some gumfrina. Nope, that's frosted explosion. This is a grass that is just a kind of a filler. Here's a little bit of gumfrina. And over there's a little bit of gumfrina. And that's empty bed and empty bed. But the gumfrina is one of my favorite flowers. But the plants themselves, I don't know. I've got to look. This area back here, I told you sometimes it gets late in the evening, about 4 o'clock, it's shadowed. So it may need sun absolutely all day. And if that's the case before we set out the next succession, I've got to make sure I know. And they'll go down there at that end of the garden because it gets sun all day long. But yeah, let's walk down here and I'll show you the sunflowers that I didn't pick today or cut. But you can see all of them are just full of blooms. Full of blooms, yay. And we just have one little section down here that's blooming, so I must have had one little container of flowers, of seed, that was just happier to comply. But you can see, not quite ready to pick. They're still too tight. Apparently if you cut them at this stage, it's iffy of whether they'll open on up for you. So these real pale colored ones, I think that they're peach. It's called peach. And they're pretty when they open. I think I still like the really bright yellow ones. To me, the really bright yellow ones look more like a sunflower. But all of these will probably get cut in the morning. I got some leaf damage there. But the leaves don't stay with them. The leaves, if there's one really nice leaf, I'll leave one at the top. The rest of them get stripped all the way to the bottom because they drink too much water if they have leaves. But yay. Chelsea and I, yesterday when we were cutting, I said, Chelsea, I feel like a flower farmer. Up to this point, it's just been a whole lot of work, y'all. But now that we're actually getting to cut the flowers, and especially when we start making the bouquets, that's just going to be fun. But Hugh did plow in the buckwheat on the other side, so as soon as this week of rain gets past us, we've got to go over and he will run the rotavator through and the hiller so we can have our beds shaped, and we'll get ready to start the third succession over there. But hopefully we have enough room over here. Well, I know we will with that section down there that's plowed. You can barely see it down there below the buckwheat. But we'll have plenty of room over here for the second succession that will be going in. The sunflowers themselves, we have about 4 successions. And we're getting ready to put in another succession this afternoon. We're going to do them like we did that last one and just plant them directly in the field and cover them over. All right, y'all. I need to get up here and get busy. I'm kind of dragging my feet. Not in the mood to go plant vegetable plants, or set vegetable plants. But you know what? Let's get her done. I hope your day is beautiful. This morning is absolutely gorgeous. And I'm just checking out the mountain mint. The mountain mint. And it's doing well. I want to intersperse it all the way down the fence as it grows. It's good deer repellent. Plenty of blackberries coming on. Good gravy. Okay. Have a wonderful, wonderful rest of your day and week. And I'll talk to you soon. Love you. Bye-bye.